Hello, welcome to my presentation. My presentation today will be on knots and how they can apply in the fire service. I'll go over how to tie a figure 8 knot, some of its uses, some of the different ways that that knot can be used. So why a figure 8? Well, the old saying of if you can't tie a knot, tie a lot is great if you never have to untie it. The whole reason we will need to tie knots is to get a tool up to someone on a roof and they're going to use a knot. They're going to drop us a rope and we're going to tie it off. If we don't use the same knot that they're used to seeing or have some sort of standard on the knot, when they get it up there, they're going to have to fight with a jumble of knots, which is going to take time and frustrate them. It's not going to be good overall for the operation. Why did I choose a figure 8 knot? Well, I personally did not choose a figure 8 knot. Sport climbing, rope access technicians, and many fire departments throughout the country have chosen the figure 8 knot based on scientific data where it doesn't put as much strain on the rope as other knots, and it doesn't degrade the strength of the rope as other knots. If we all work on one standard, we all know which knot we're going to see when it gets to the top of the roof or the ladder, wherever we are. We're going to get better at tying that knot, and the figure 8 is a very versatile knot. So one of the first things I'll show you is how to tie a knot on a bite. A bite is when you take a piece of rope and put any sort of loop in between it. So we have this length of rope. More slack is better than less, because if you run out of slack you have to start the knot again. I take the knot, rather the bite, I hold it in my hand, and I just drop it. I reach to the left. As I'm looking at it, I reach to the left side, grab that piece of rope, and then it's very important, this is the only part that's even remotely tricky about this knot, is I must come around the back side. If I could just come here and go in, it ties a different knot, which is not what we want. So I'm going to come around the back side, and before I pull it tight, I'm going to do what we call dressing the knot, to where all of the ropes are next to each other in a nice orderly fashion. As you can see, it resembles an 8, which is the reason why it is called a figure of 8 knot. I'll pull it tight, and then I'll put what is called safety in there. And this just further ensures that that knot's not going to come undone. Figure 8 on a bite is very useful if you have a locking snap link or a carabiner, where you can get whatever that you want to tie off around, rather through that loop. The other reason why a lot of people like the figure 8 is after it takes a strain, it's very easy to strike the knot or untie the knot. To untie the knot, I'll undo the safety, and you just bend it one way, bend it the other, and that loosens the knot, even after this has had a lot of strain, like lifting up another person. And then I pull it out, and we've got a regular piece of rope. So now, what if we want this tool and we don't have a locking snap link that we're going to use? We're going to use a figure 8, but we're going to use what's called a follow through. So get about the same amount that you would for a figure 8 on a bite, but instead of holding it and dropping that bite, you're just going to drop a single piece of rope, a single running end. The same knot applies to the left side, around, through the back. I'm going to pull it tight enough, but not so tight that I can't continue to work. Because the next step is I will take this end of the rope and loop it through the handle of whatever I want to lift. And then it's called a follow through or a trace back, because I'm simply going to trace back the same exact path of the knot that's already in there. Come around, come out the end. It looks like an 8, and I goofed, didn't really leave enough for a proper safety, because a safety is supposed to be 3 to 4 inches. But now someone can hoist that up. And when it gets to the top of the ladder or the roof, they know it could be dark, it could be raining, there could be smoke. They know they just bend it, and they can get the knot to come undone by pulling on one end. Once you find that one end, you're going to undo on through, and you can put the tool into service. The figure 8 can also be used to join two lengths of rope together if they are of a similar diameter, and that's very key. If I can just find the end. To join two lengths of rope together, the same thing applies. This is just going to be a follow through. Around the back, come through. I'm not going to pull that tight. I have another length of rope. I'm going to get enough slack in it, and I'm going to pull that slack through it first. Now that I've set my slack that I'm going to utilize, I'm simply doing another follow through, and I'm going to trace the, see, and I goofed that. This is why we practice. I'm going to trace the existing figure 8 that is in there, follow it through, come around, now that end. You can see, looks like an 8. Put a safety in each end. And the good thing about a figure 8 is it doesn't roll under strain like some other knots are known to do. So we can pull on that, hoist up a heavy tool or another person, and that rope will be almost as strong as a single piece of rope because the figure 8 doesn't degrade the string. Afterwards, very easy, undo the safeties. Even if a heavy load was put on there, bend it a couple times, and you can strike the knot easy and put this rope back into service or tie something else on it. So that was very quick. It was a 1 knot and 3 uses for that knot. As with anything in the fire service, practice makes perfect, and any task that we do, we need to practice to ensure we can do it effectively and safely in all conditions. I implore you to look at other media. There's plenty of information online. There are books on knots, and talk to sport climbers or fellow firefighters, and they can get you how you can use this knot in other ways, how it's especially used within your fire department. Thank you for your time, and be careful.